crib room to have their lunch. So if I was going to fire here, the crib room would be just around the corner there. That's where the fresh air is coming down from the surface. We know that we're not going to get affected by smoke and fumes there. So as soon as I fire, everybody's safe. I run my bell wire out around the corner there to where the fresh air is, and then I hook it onto this gadget here. We call that a battery. 2 wires on there, key in there, turn the handle, and that should set off 100 shots. Quite often we do need to set off more than 100 shots, so we use a different gadget. We call it a Beethoven. That's that black box you see there. So the 2 wires on the other end, this end here, there's a crank handle, crank it up. As soon as the red light comes on, press the button and it'll set off 1,000 shots. You all know about Beethoven. He makes beautiful music. There's no better music to the miner's ears than to hear all them shots going off, because you know you're going to make really good money underground. So as soon as you've fired that drive cut, you turn your little screaming fan on, and that'll force the clean air in there, force the stale air, smoke and fumes out. So as soon as you've finished your lunch, after half an hour, come back in here, grab your water hose, water down all the sides, all the backs, and that big heap of dirt. Then you know that you're not going to get into trouble for making a big dust underground. If I was to go in there and bog that dry dirt out without watering it down, that dust goes right through the ventilation system, dusts out all the other miners. They wouldn't be very happy about that. So I'd get the sack for doing stupid things underground. These days we're not allowed to do anything stupid underground. Years ago we used to like to have a little bit of a joke with our mates. So when you hear your mate coming along on the loco, 100 feet below you, you get ready for him. A little bit of burning fuse, detonator on the end of that, set a light to it, drop it down the ore path as he goes past, gives him a little bit of shell shock. So we don't do things like that these days because we know it's going to cost us our job. The other stupid thing we used to do is when your mate comes in to have his lunch at the crib room, first thing he does when he gets there, he takes his hat off, his belt, drops it down on the ground, then he sits down to have his lunch. So while he's having his lunch, he grab hold of a little bit of paper off the jelly knife, rub that on his hat band. When he puts his hat on after lunch, he gets a nice old headache, like a big hammer going off inside your head. So that's the way we used to treat our mates underground. I'm not going to tell you what we did to our enemies. So when we watered everything down, we know it's going to be no dust. That's when we sound the ground out with this bar. We built this bar up against the dirt there. If it rings like a bell, that ground should be really quite safe. It's not going to fall down on top of us. So this is the sound we like to hear. Rings like a bell. This is the sound we don't like to hear. When it's a high drummy sound like that, we get the bar in there, we scale him off. If you can't get him off with a scaling bar, you grab that machine and air leg, you bore a tiny little hole in that rock, and that's what we call a pop. You put a detonator in there with a little bit of explosive. You can fire that off any time through the day, providing you've got the safety whistle turned on. People hear the whistle blowing, they know that you're not allowed to go near that area because somebody's firing. So as soon as you're fired, you turn the whistle off, then people can walk through there if they need to. If I was going to fire a full face of dirt like we got in front of that machine there, I must wait until firing time, which is 11:45. Otherwise I can fire again at 3:15, which is knock-off time. They asked one of my mates underground why was it that he chose to fire 2 hours early. He said, well, it's like this. He said, I had all my holes bored out. He said, detonators in there, explosives in there, wired the whole lot up together. I had nothing else to do, so I decided to go down the ladderway there and let her rip. So as he was walking down the ladderway to fire, he didn't know it, but there was 2 fitters walking up the ladderway at the other end of the stope. They was inside there watching all them shots going off around them, and they got hit with tiny little chips of fly rot. That was in a nickel mine. When you get nickel inside your flesh, you get a disease that doesn't heal up in a hurry. They call that nickel disease. So those fitters are probably most likely suffering a little bit of nickel disease today. The bloke that fired on top of him, he lost his job immediately, never to work underground again. Today, if I did something stupid like that today, I reckon I'd probably more than lose my job. They'd probably put me in jail for a while, give me time enough to think about where I went wrong. So we'll go for a little bit of a walk around. I'll show you a few more points of interest.